This is gesso, it dries kind of chalky, and if you put a few layers on it, you can sand it in between the layers and you'll get a really smooth surface. It's also good to put white underneath any colour, because then everything looks like it has light coming from behind it. I was trying to mix my colours in a way that made them look like they're glowing and they have shade and tone. But if you mix white with any colours, it automatically kind of becomes grey. So it's kind of better, I've realised, to just put a pure colour on top of white, and then yeah, it's like almost like a screen or something, it just has light. Like the fabric's really nice, it's expensive, like seems a shame to just like, you know, cover it up without touching it. Trying to make sure it's like soaking in between all the little grains of canvas. You have to do something like this, either like a glue or a primer when you're using oils, because oil rots the canvas. It looks really nice when you put just oil on canvas. I really like it, but it won't last very long. And also the canvas will continue to like absorb the paint over time, so the colours will fade and they'll sink in. And that's why like old paintings look dark. They weren't originally that dark. It's because everything's sinking in over a long period of time.
Do you already know what you're going to paint on this canvas?
Kind of. Yeah, I have a drawing. I just have an idea of certain things I've been doing recently with colour and with shape. I have the general vibe in mind. There's something in it though that like all the stuff that I imagine for my paintings, they don't really like exist in real life. So you have to take like photos of something similar and then do drawings and change it. There's kind of like, I'm kind of imagining like a tent or fabric for a stage or something, but positioned in this really weird way. Fabric's interesting in painting. It's just like, it has a lot of historical importance and reverence. And the tent in particular, there's this painter called Marcus Lupert who did these really iconic tent paintings, and they're like my favourite paintings ever. But the tents are very still and the paintings are quite they're quite like two-dimensional, like flat coloured. The tents are an excuse for him to do geometric painting basically. He's just looking at the shapes. But I wanted to do tents sort of in movement, like fabric and tents are a really good way of describing wind and other elements. So you can make a painting look stormy or windy, or like everything is moving in a certain direction because fabric is easily manipulated by wind. I want these two paintings to be almost like one big painting. I'll work on them next to each other and it'll be a long scene.
What else is going in this scene?
It is certain objects and shapes that are actually from some old paintings, like 3-year-old paintings that I was quite happy with, and then they just didn't carry on doing anything with them. I don't know, I got bored or something. So I'm going to take those shapes. They're shapes that came from abstract marks. So they were all improvised, and then they kind of just so happened to end up looking like these kind of objects. So that they look kind of like propellers, turbines, weird tools, ribbons, all these things that kind of turn and twist. So the idea is to take those accidental shapes that looked kind of like something and flesh them out and figure out what they would look like as real things with perspective and weight. So it's basically just a development of an old idea.
That's sort of quite common in your paintings, these sort of odd little objects and shapes. Like you had the phase where you were painting those little groups of tubes.
The tubes, yeah. The tubes are coming back. The tubes were, it was an accident. They came to be through a moment of just trying to do something nice with the brush. And the tubes are like, ooh, that's what my hair's. They're just like a flowy shape, like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And I don't know, they're just fun to do.
You don't attach any like special significance to
afterwards?
Yeah, to something like those tubes.
Yeah, afterwards. I mean, but they change depending on what's in the painting. So if those tubes were in like that dark painting, they'd maybe be like sinister, claw-like almost, like animals, or maybe in a lighter painting they're like ribbons. I mean, they're actually just like a pictorial device to give the idea that there is a space to travel through. So the tubes and the loops, you can hopefully imagine like going through them and there being a space beyond them, which is, I don't know, fun, I guess. With the idea of the tools and them being tools for me to use, and tools, they look like tools in the picture as well. It's like this idea that a painting, when you look at it, you're playing like a weird game and you use one thing over here to make sense of another thing over there, and they're like these little rules to figure out a game. There isn't like an objective, it's like the same way that skipping is a game or something. A game in the sense that there are hoops for you to jump through, there are things you have to figure out and overcome, there are things that make sense, like you get a reward. Is that like a game? It's like a game and also like a machine in a weird way, like all these parts that make something work and fit together and run, become animated, I guess. Does that make more sense? I don't know if it makes sense to me. I think about it all the time and I'm like, it kind of makes more sense to me as time goes on. I should figure out how to explain it a bit better. But also that's why I carry on painting, because like the more I paint, the more I'll be able to understand it better, you know. leave that for now. Remember how I made it. Make enough to not run out for the whole duration of the painting.
Which pink? You've already made up some of this?
I made up some of this, yeah. I was just testing out pinks. I knew I wanted it to be pink, but it has to, because I want all of these paintings to go as like a body of work, it's got to go with all of them. And the colours are all, they're a lot more vivid and intense than any paintings I've ever done before, so I've just got to keep that going and keep it consistent. Magenta, Scarlet Lake, Coral Orange, I'm pretty sure that's Venetian Red, and I think I'm going to put some blue in there as well, just to link it to the blue painting that's going to be on the left hand side of it. Oh, I need loads of white as well.
Put blue into the pink?
Blue into the pink, yeah. Just a little bit. Cool it down, neutralise it a little bit so it's not so pretty fluorescent, but completely fluorescent. Okay, I might separate half of this and leave it as one of the colours to use on the painting. And take this and make it into this other colour. And that's going to be the most intense colour on the whole painting. But for things that are going to be in the background, or to add tone or form and shape, you've got to have like different variations of this colour. So I'm going to do different values of it with this white. So we need one that's going to be extremely pale, and that's probably the one that I'm going to use mostly today. So the less intense the colour is, the more the shape appears to recede into the distance. So I've got to basically make it more of a, like a neutral colour. Oh, that's nice. Still. Like when a painting is completely empty, it's like everything's possible, and then as soon as you do one thing, like all doors close in one way. So it can be like, if you like, you just get nervous. trying to do like maths in my head of like the things that equations I don't understand.
What do you mean?
Like, how is it all going to look on top of it? How is every shape going to look on top of one another? And how will that look different depending on what order that I do it in? But I can't see the end result, so I don't know. I feel like being a bit precious about it, and we just got to do something and it's fine. And then even if it's not, you bring it back. So. Probably won't do it today, but I've been trying to think about, like in this painting, there's this kind of hint at like a checkered floor.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe I could bring it over just a little bit, like a part of that floor, and have it more realistic, like a black and white, sort of like bathroom floor or something. And that would be interesting because then it's like, if you don't recognise what this is straight away, this is going to solidify that. And it's like one scene crossing over into a different kind of dimension or like a different kind of materiality. I like the idea of it, it's just like whether it's going to actually help this painting.
Why is it risky?
I don't know, because you can't get rid of it.
Right.
And it's so like, just like pure and nice at the minute. It's hard to tell different kinds of black, isn't it? That looks a bit boring. That's pretty much right, I think.
What is this thing then?
What is this thing? It is... I don't know what it is. It's taking form as it goes. It's definitely kind of alive, biomorphic. Could be like a plant, could be sort of organ-like, it could be fruit, but I guess the reason why it's here is to give a sense of direction, that it's curving around this space and this arena and engulfing it and looking over it. And it's also the point of gaze from this character over here. So this has got this upwards trajectory, and then you've got this responding backwards. It's not so much about what it is, it's more about its relationship to the things around it and how they change each other, I guess. I like organs because they're these things that process stuff, and they're part of a big system, and a painting is like a system in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the cascading things are so cool.
What do you mean?
Just like just at the top there, like everything, all ribbons and whatever they are, just like flowing down. It's so cool. It's so good.
It's I was thinking about that like system idea again. For ages I painted fountains because I felt like a fountain was this really interesting like metaphor for the way things go around when you like for what your body is and what you are as a person. Information's coming in all the time and then you're letting things out and you're this constantly changing thing. So a fountain was a really good metaphor for that, but I realised it didn't have to be so literal, and you can create systems in paintings that are adjacent to a fountain like this, but it doesn't have to be defined as anything. It is just everything triggers some other part of the system off and it becomes this whole functioning, not like organism, but like an idea, I guess.
What's that noise?
This is the drumming club. Around the corner they have these, there's like a community centre around the corner, they have different events. And they have an event which is like GABA for children. And they mix nursery rhymes with like GABA music. It's really bad. I'm gonna do the tube, and I'm gonna do it in the same colour as the prawn, I think, because I don't want to add too many colours to this painting. So I'm gonna make a brush.
So what happened? You've stopped working on the 2 paintings.
Yeah. I didn't even remember that it was 2 paintings. It was like ages ago. Yeah, I stopped working on them because they were no good, basically. Put them in the bin.
Why do you feel they were no good?
They were no good because at the time I was making them, I had a very, like, my state of mind. I wasn't thinking very clearly about what I wanted. I was getting really confused. I'd been selling paintings through this person, and they were putting pressure on me to make a certain type of work, for my work to be, for all the work to look the same. And they were saying things like, you know, the clients really don't want anything with a dark energy, which is weird, or anything too abstract or anything too weird. And in my mind, when they were telling me these things, I was like, well, I'm not going to listen to you. But those thoughts were creeping into my head, and the making started to not be about making and more worrying about whether the work would sell, whether people would like it, whether I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's just basically not creativity. It's just making from a point of fear. What they were is like a really terrible attempt to try and be commercial and do what I want at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's basically just compromising both approaches to make something that's mediocrely commercial and mediocrely what I want to make, and taking no risk and feeling really stuck in between what I should be doing. And it's ridiculous. It's like, I feel like you're not supposed to say when stuff like that happens. Do you know what I mean? You're supposed to be like, of course I want to be doing this, but I don't know. But I didn't even know it was happening.
What do you mean you're not supposed to say?
I don't know, like, if you're gonna make the decision to be commercial and start selling your work, you're supposed to just pretend that it's what you want to be doing.
Right.
You're supposed to say, yes, this is my vision and this is what I want to be selling.
Yeah.
And not admit that it wasn't what you wanted to make. Since those 2 paintings, I took 2 or 3 months break because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know where it was coming from. I couldn't trust my decisions. I didn't know if all my decisions were coming from the right place. And I think the work I'm doing now, it's more refined, and there's more consistency in it. So in a way it's more commercial, but I don't really care if it's like nice or pretty or going to look nice in someone's house, which is the pressure I was under before, of like having to make work for a particular type of person's house, make them feel happy or whatever.
How do you know what someone wants in their house?
I don't.
You don't?
No. But I don't think I should be thinking about it at all. It's not even interesting. It's not even like a part of making art.
Have you seen the inside of wealthy people's houses who buy paintings?
I've seen like a couple, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they would like this pink one?
No. No. I think it's gross. But that's why I like it.
Why do you think it's gross?
Because it's like a really intense, disgusting pink. It's like overly sweet, or like guts, or like something that's got additives in it. It doesn't look healthy or natural, but I kind of like it. It might go into some people's houses, but like you've got to have a really particular taste.
I could see it in a pink room.
In a pink room, yeah, where everything's pink, but it's like so if you're gonna imagine your paintings going anywhere outside of the studio, I think the place to imagine them would be a gallery, not a house, because that's where they're gonna be seen by a lot of people and be part of a discussion. The house is like, it's where it ends up eventually, and it really shouldn't be like any of my concern.
So what did you do with the 2 paintings?
Well, first I tried to fix them, which never really goes very well, and then I just took them off. I decided it'd be better to just use the stretchers to do something else. And just, for a while, they were just on the floor, rolled up. I thought about cutting them up, making smaller paintings out of them, but eventually I thought it would just be good to have sort of fresh start, so I threw them in the bin.
Yeah, fair.
Which feels nice.
Does it?
Yeah, it's like a relief. You know, like trying to resuscitate something that's been dead for ages, and you're like, just give up on it, you know.
Does it feel like a waste of money?